Here at Premier Nissan of Metairie, one of the outstanding premier automotive groups, many locations throughout the greater New Orleans area. This is 6636 Veterans Boulevard. We'll be letting you know throughout the hour about some great specials here at Premier Nissan. You will love what you hear. Great product at Premier Nissan. Thanks to Troy Duhon, our great friend in the Premier Automotive Dealership Group, for having us here today. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv, and a pleasant good evening to you as we break it down. We'll have Saints highlights, LSU highlights, Tulane highlights, Prep Player of the Week, and more to talk about a bunch of winners. Isn't that wonderful? And we'll do so with our outstanding analysts, including former New Orleans Saints wide receiver Torrance Small, as always.
Hey, always, Ken. Glad to see you again. Glad to see you guys out there. Hey, great football weather. There's great football weather out there. Protect yourself.
And great football. Brian Ellie Walsh of sportsNOLA.com, as always. Good evening, my friend.
Dr. Trahan, always a pleasure to be here. Happy Victory Monday, and congratulations to Tulane on its 500th victory ever. Congrats.
And a homecoming win at that, which
Yes.
is special. Those don't happen very often, so it's great. I'm wearing green today. Ricky Jackson, Pro Football Hall of Famer, par excellence in terms of his analysis as well, and he'll no doubt drill Brian Ellie Walsh during the course of the show here this evening. Rick, good evening.
Good evening. I tell you what, man, all the Louisiana teams won this week that I pulled for, so I'm always happy when that happens.
It's a great weekend. And Brian, we don't have that often when we have all three teams win like that.
You know, Kenny, and what I'm surprised at, I don't think he ever pulls for a losing team in Louisiana, so come on, that's kind of a little skewed there.
So what are you trying to say?
I'm not
if he's
sure.
behind you, they're going to win, is that right?
No, but I'll tell you what, Victory Monday, it is great, and all three impressive wins.
Very much so. And the sun came up this morning, and it was quite bright, and so were the outlooks of fans throughout the metropolitan area and beyond. We'll take a time out here. When we return, we'll take a look at highlights of the New Orleans Saints victory at Soldier Field over the Chicago Bears as sportsNOLAtv continues from Premier Nissan on Veterans Boulevard in Metairie, right here on WHNO Channel 20. Solid effort by a solid player. Would have had another touchdown had he not slipped on that run that we saw earlier in the game. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv from Premier Nissan in Metairie, where you get some of the best vehicles and best deals around. You'll find out more about that a little bit later in the show. Right now, let's find out about how our guys feel about the Saints and their 26-18 victory over the Bears. Brian, as you look at this effort, I thought this was a mature effort by the Saints. They did everything you need to do to win on the road. They didn't turn the football over. They managed the clock well. One time of possession. Score when they got into the red zone. Bent but didn't break. That's a sign of a mature football team.
Absolutely, Kenny. I mean, you know, they had preached all season, all week long about not turning the ball over to the Bears, who are very good at takeaways. And I thought Drew Brees, even though he didn't hit the 300-yard plateau, I thought he played as flawless a game for a guy that threw 288 yards in passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He took what they gave them, he made smart decisions, and he played with the patience of Job. And I'll tell you what, it translated into an impressive victory on the road.
Well, he's playing at an elite level. When you look at these last 2 or 3 games, listen to these numbers. 59 of 74 in his last 2 games. That's almost 80% completions, 701 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. Extended to 3 games, he's 73%, 1,043 yards, 9 TDs, 1 interception. When he plays like that, Torrance, with this defense, that's a lethal combination.
Yes. One thing Drew is just doing, we're keeping the ball. We're not giving the ball back. We're playing pretty well. We're on our 3rd down conversion, which is big. That's something that we've been doing these last couple of games. We've been winning the 3rd down battle with teams we've been playing against. And when you can control the ball and the way our defense is playing, getting off the field, they're winning the 3rd down battle as well. When you win on both sides of the ball, you give yourself a great opportunity to win in the ball game.
Ricky, the Saints dominating time of possession. Again, they lead the NFL in that department. They had it for 36 minutes yesterday. 3rd down conversions are 44%. Opponents are 36%. They snapped the ball 340 times. Opponents just 278. So when you equate those numbers, these numbers add up. They make sense, and there's no doubt that's why they're 5-0.
And I tell you what they're doing, they're going down the field with the ball, and that's really helping the Saints out. I mean, the tight end, they're catching some long balls down the field, and I think that's what opening everything up. And the defense, the way they blitzing and getting the ball back, the quarterback yesterday, when you don't get a small quarterback, the Saints defense is going to eat him up because Coach Ryan going to go after him over and over. You seen that yesterday with Cutler. He just didn't pick the blitz up, and I got a chance to hit him a lot of time and caused fumble on him one time.
Got to believe familiarity helped, Brian. When you looked at where the blitzes were coming from, they came off of Bushrod's side quite a bit. Not necessarily all his fault, but you got to believe that the Saints knew something there, overloaded, and they blitzed 2 safeties at one time on a couple of occasions, and they got sacks both times.
Yeah, he displayed something, Ryan, that is, just showed something that he hadn't shown in the previous 4 games. He brought some safety blitzes in, and they kind of set the tone for the game. And once again, we're reminded, Jay Cutler's a good quarterback. He had a fantastic passer rating. But give me Drew Brees or Jay Cutler, there's not even I mean, Drew Brees is unbelievable, and Jay Cutler is what he is.
Saints are +6 in the turnover department now, Torrance. And when you win the battle of turnovers like that, you're going to be successful. And again, just one of the many numbers that this defense has put up that makes all the sense in the world.
Yes, defense is playing great right now. And we talked about what's winning football. 3rd down conversion, penalties, they only had 2 in this game. They won that, and turnovers. And the one thing, we're not turning the ball over, and we're getting turnovers. And the defense is getting that ball back into the offensive hand. That's why we're winning the time of possession right now.
Yeah, I'm full of numbers today, but Rick, one number I really like as well is that through 5 games, 7 different players for the Saints have interceptions. 7 different players.
And I tell you what, man, it's about 7 different guys have sacks up there too. So that lets you know that the defense just really rolling. And I mean, we don't even get a chance to mention special team, how great a punter we got. I mean, we got the best punter in football. You can see what he did yesterday, and hardly kicking the ball well. I mean, he got 5 field goals, so that team is just playing as a whole.
Brian, that transitions perfectly. Hardly 4 for 4 outdoors on grass with wind. Morstead averaged 47.7 a punt. He's pinned people inside the 20-yard line continuously. He kicks off extremely well. Sproles can return kicks well. Listen, special teams are a big plus for the Saints this year.
Absolutely, and they'll be tested again in New England this coming Sunday. For Hartley to go up there and kick as true as he did on turf, on grass, and it was slippery conditions, but it just shows that he's got the ability to adapt, and when you get Chicago in early October, this is the kind of weather that you hope for, and they got it.
And then there's Jimmy Graham, Torrance, 37 catches, 593 yards, 6 touchdowns. Guy's averaging 118 yards in receptions per game for a tight end. That's just ridiculous.
The thing I don't get about a lot of these guys, how can you not cover a guy that big? A guy that's been performing that well since the season begun. Since the season begun, he's been a catching machine, a yard machine, a touchdown machine, and you have to find out where he's at on the field and have account for him at all times. And that's something defense continually not doing.
Ricky, this young man is really playing himself into an incredible payday. Saints are going to have to really pony up to keep him.
Well, I mean, that way you got to get rid of some guys. Some guys are going to be able to leave, but I tell you what, you can't lose a tight end like that. He's the best tight end in football and might be one of the best tight ends to ever play the game. I mean, at least in the top 3 to me.
One of the things I like, Brian, was the fact that Julius Peppers wasn't really a factor. You got to give Charles Brown credit. This guy's quietly doing the job, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, Kenny. And you know what the telltale sign is? You don't hear Charles Brown name mentioned, either be it in the Superdome or on telecasts at all. He's obviously doing a very sound job, and the less times that his name is mentioned, that means that he's doing a pretty good job.
Little kudos to Torrance, too, for Alshon Jeffrey. 218 yards. Yeah. You know a little bit about this young guy, don't you?
Yes, I had the opportunity to train this guy, get him prepped for the NFL draft and all. And he went out and had a great game. I'm happy for him. I hope he continue to have a good season. Not only that, but stay healthy more than anything.
Goes without saying. And, of course, the Saints just getting it done in all phases. And, Brian, they just look like a confident team. Not cocky, but confident. They look like they expect to win.
Kenny, we've said it before, and it's hard not to say it again, is that they just remind you they've got that look that like they did in 09 when things were just going not only their way, but they were making it go their way, and they're playing very good football.
Well, it's a remarkable team to this point in the season when you look at this offense playing at this level, Defense playing where they're playing. Special teams that good. Coaching got that figured out. It's a pretty good season that has a chance to be a lot better for your New Orleans Saints. When we return in just a moment, we'll take a look around the NFL as sportsNOLAtv continues from Premier Nissan in Metairie. Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening for you to ponder and figure out. No multiple choice. Think about it. The Saints are one of 3 remaining unbeaten teams in the NFL, along with the Broncos and the Chiefs. Question: who was the last remaining unbeaten in the NFL a year ago, in 2012? What team was it? We'll have the answer for you a little bit later on in the show. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv, Premier Nissan, Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. And the NFL season now has gotten through 5 weekends of games, and we talked about the Saints being 5-0. Let's take a look at some of the results from this past weekend. Of course, the early game, Thursday, Cleveland over Buffalo. Cincinnati beat the Saints' next opponent, handing the Patriots their first loss, and the Brady streak is over at 52 games with a touchdown pass, 2 short of Drew Brees, whom he will face next week. Green Bay beat Detroit without Megatron. It was Indianapolis' huge win, coming from behind. A win at home against Seattle helps the Saints. More on that coming up. Baltimore, big win over Miami, who had the lead in that game. Philadelphia beat the hapless Giants. Speaking of hapless Jacksonville, how bad are they? Kansas City, best turnaround you can possibly imagine. Andy Reid already ready for the coronation of Coach of the Year. All due respect to Sean Payton. Taking a look at other results in the NFL, it was Arizona taking care of Carolina. That helped the Saints. What about that Carolina offense? What about Cam Newton? Supposed to be so good. Speaking of offenses, Denver and Dallas, they were pretty good offensively. 99 points scored. Broncos get the win to stay unbeaten. San Francisco just mauled Houston. And how long can Matt Schaub continue as the quarterback in Houston? And then in the game played, I don't know, at midnight, whenever it was, Oakland, after they converted the field at O.Co Coliseum, beat San Diego 27-17 with Terrell Pryor back at the helm. Jets in Atlanta Monday night, and Saints fans will be pulling for Geno Smith and the Jets. As we take a look at these results, Brian Alley Walsh, in terms of what you saw that impressed you, what did you like?
Well, I'll tell you what, I was 2 games, but the Houston-San Francisco, the Houston-San Francisco game last night, but I'm going to bypass that game because it pales in comparison to what we saw at the Mile High Stadium, or excuse me, in Jerry Jones' Taj Mahal with the Cowboys and the Broncos. 51-48, it was a classic. I saw it and I wanted to see it again. If ever there was a better football game in a while, that would be it. And I'll tell you what, Peyton Manning continues to impress, and Tony Romo continues to make mistakes in bad situations, and that's the difference. That's why the Cowboys have not been able to get over the hump. Well, I'll tell you what, the Broncos are going to be hard to beat.
They really will. I mean, Manning made the mistake earlier in the fourth quarter, but he got away with it, and then Romo makes the one that matters. Your thoughts, Torrance?
Oh, go to the 2 young boys, Russell Wilson and Andrew Luck. I thought that was a great matchup, great game. Seattle, they show they can struggle away from home. At home, they're Superman, but you get them away from that little kryptonite, can bring them down a little bit. And I think Andrew Luck and company did a great job of going out and taking them down.
Rick?
I see, the Raiders. I mean, staying up late last night, just seeing the Raiders to beat San Diego like that. I mean, that's very impressive. Pryor came back and he looking real good. But what Brian talking about the Cowboy game, anytime somebody give up 51 points, I mean, the defense lost the game. So, I mean, you can't put that on Romo. You give a team 51 points, that's on the defense.
And I agree with Torrance. I think the victory by the Indianapolis Colts, serving notice. They beat San Francisco on the road. Now they beat Seattle at home. That team's for real. They're a serious contender. They may be the challenger to Denver in the AFC. Wouldn't that be ironic that the Colts and the Broncos, Peyton Manning and the Colts doing battle to decide things? It could happen based upon where Indianapolis is right now, and they did the Saints a big favor by knocking off the Seahawks, no doubt about that. Let's take a look at the standings now in the NFC South. And again, the Saints continue to not only rule the roost, but to put themselves in a great position on a permanent basis. Look how many games they're clear now. Panthers getting beat. Buccaneers, forget about them. They're toast. Falcons need to win against the Jets. They should, but even if they do, they're 3 back. So, Brian, the Saints are just in a great position, not just in their division, but really in the conference with Seattle going down.
You know, that's why, I thought the Saints win yesterday in Chicago was an NFC game, and it kind of takes the monkey off their back. Certainly they want to go to New England and win that game and stay undefeated, but to me they're playing with house money because they've got the win on the road, and Seattle lost again. So to me, the Saints 4-game stretch in weeks 10 to 13, Dallas, San Francisco, Atlanta, and Seattle, and maybe not in that order. Those 4 games are going to determine if the Saints legitimately are home field advantage for the playoffs.
Yes. I think it's going to come down, what was important about this win, it was a conference win, as you said, a conference win, because I think it's going to come down to the end is who have those, what's the record in the conference, not just in your division, but in the conference as well. You have to understand, Seattle lost, but they lost out of conference game, so it didn't matter as much. So if it comes down to the end when they start looking at the record for us in the conference.
And I'll tell you what, I mean, anytime an NFC team lose, that helps the Saints out. But, I mean, over in the Saints division, they might be the one with 5 games already. They looking so terrible over there, man. Them teams might not win another game unless they play one another.
Yeah, Saints need to be 2 games clear of Seattle if they want to be able to be in a position to go to Seattle later in the year and still lose and still be in control of home field. And that's really what they're looking at this stage. It's not too early to talk about that. It's not too early to look at that. In fact, it's time to look at that, frankly. It's also time to look ahead to the Saints' next opponent, the New England Patriots at Gillette Stadium. It's a feature game, a late game. Could have been 2 unbeatens. Saints hammered them in the Dome in the last meeting in the Super Bowl season. Of course, Brady's streak snapped. And, when you look at Brady, Brian, he's having a pedestrian year. 56% completions, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, quarterback rating of 80.5%.
I agree. And you know what? And keep in mind, this is a little known fact. Breeze is 3-0 against Brady in head-to-head games. 2-0 in San Diego, and of course the game you referred to, Kenny, was the blowout in the Dome. 158.3 passer rating in that game.
It's the Torn Small Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Played for both of these teams.
Well, yes, it's always revert back to me. Some kind of way it reverts back to me. But I think it's going to be a great game, I think it's going to be a great game. But the one thing I think going to have to show up is our defense. If we put pressure on Tom Brady, he has some young receivers out there. They're not running the proper routes. They're not on the same page right now. I don't know if Gronkowski will be back at the time, but I think we can go up there and shock them.
Well, I mean, New England are really not a good ball club to me anyhow. I mean, I think the Saints are way better than them. Last 3 times Saints done played them, Saints dominate them. So I ain't really gave New England a lot of credit lately.
Who chooses the teams that play for a national championship in college football? Who should choose them? That's our hot seat topic when Sports NOLA TV continues from Premier Nissan in Metairie. Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening. No multiple choice. You need to know the answer. The Saints are one of 3 remaining unbeaten teams in the NFL, along with the Broncos and the Chiefs. Who was the last remaining unbeaten team in the NFL in 2012? Saints fans should remember this. It was the Atlanta Falcons because the Saints took them out of the ranks of the unbeaten, beating them in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Was it 31-27, I believe? And a very good effort by New Orleans. Chris Ivory had a memorable run in that game, and the Saints emerged victorious. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV, Premier Nissan in Metairie. Thanks to the Premier Automotive Group for having us here. We appreciate it. They've got a great product, and we're glad to be part of it here this evening. It's time now for our hot seat segment where we debate a hot seat topic in the world of sports. And the hot seat segment is brought to you by Pride Services AC and Heating. Pride Services handles all your AC and heating needs. Since 1984, Pride Services skilled technicians have serviced and repaired all brands and models. They never charge for on-site estimates and pride themselves on fast, reliable service. Get out of the hot seat and call Pride Services. Pride Services will fix it right today. Be here tomorrow. Since 1984. Hot seat topic of the day. Who should choose the national championship teams to play for the title? What process should take place to allow that to happen? We say that because a new process was put in place over the last week. It's interesting to say the least. Brian, make it more interesting because the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan. And I think it is fitting that we're here at Premier Nissan because we are part of a premier panel hosted by a premier man in Ken Trahan. That said, lift your feet up, everyone. Here, to me, it's very simple. This is not a kangaroo court that we're talking about here. You want to put educated people who are quite familiar with not only college football, but the elite college football and how to determine who should play for a national championship. I'm glad about one thing, that we're removing that selection process away from the computer rankings. They may be able to take those into the room to determine who plays for the national championship. But the panel that ultimately sits and decides who plays for the championship, the quarterfinalists and semifinalists in the first couple of years, should be people who know the game. They should be people, we're seeing names, Condoleezza Rice, Dan Radakovich, Archie Manning, some very fine names, but people say, well, Condoleezza Rice, what does she know about college football? And I say she knows everything about college football. Has she ever been in an administrative or in a college atmosphere? No. Is she a bright woman? Absolutely. She watches football probably as good as anyone does. So if that's the problem that people have with this selection committee, I say stop, no further. But you do need to get people who understand. You could find fault with people going from a Division III, or I'm not sure how exactly where that's going to stop, but you do need to get people who know the game. As long as they do that, I can live with it. The fewer the better. Archie Manning is good to be on the panel. He's one of those people that knows the game. Enough said.
I agree with you, and I'm glad that you made it here. You passed the place up about 4 times. But I agree with Brian. Definitely, people, the ones who should be on the panel are those who know football. But not only, I think, just football. In these bowl games, these teams, some teams that make it to the BCS can walk away with $13 million for their conference. And I think the business side of it is very big. It's big money when you're talking about bowl games. I think that's one reason why it took so long to get the playoff system, because of the bowl games and the money and the revenue that is generated from these bowl games. So that has to be counted in as well. So we need somebody in there who knows the finances of this thing as well. So I think you should not only know football, like you say, should have some football sense, but you should also have some, I think, the economic part of know about the college rankings as well, because I think that's going to play a big part of it as well, with some of these schools being able to be in a playoff system or not.
And my thing is, you're going to have the last 4 teams most of the time. They can pick their own. As long as the last 4 teams play against each other, it's going to be pretty enough simple. I mean, you very seldom do you have 5 or 6 teams that deserve to be in the last 4 games. So I think it'll iron itself out.
Yeah. But I think the one thing is, okay, we always argue about 1 and 2 and who is really number 2 and who's number 3. So when it comes to the top 4, it's going to be, well, who's really 4 and who's 5? Who picks that? Who makes that decision? And that's where the big decision come in. That's where that panel. That's when it really is going to be a tough decision, because I think the top 2, probably even the top 3, might be easy, but it's going to be that 4 and 5. Who do you bring in? And I still think money plays a big part, and they want certain people to be in it because they want to generate that revenue. Understanding that college wants to generate, they wants to generate revenue.
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, they may, but. To me, it's not the ideal setup, because I think 8 teams is the way to go. They're going to do 4 for the first go around, okay? Now, but you could probably come up with 6 or 7 teams right now, and this is where the hardest element of this selection process is to whittle down. Right now, we can come up with 6 or 7 worthy teams, okay?
At the end of the season,
it'll
go down
that
to
may
4.
be the case, but as long as those people do their homework, I'm okay with it.
You're gonna have a few guys. Like I say, when it comes down to 4 and 5 is going to be the argument. 1, 2, and 3 going to be okay. 4 and 5, that's what we're going to have the argument. It's going to be the same as we had the 2 and 3 who should play.
All right, time to render a judgment. You guys have done a good job of having your say. Several components in place here. One, I believe that the athletic directors from each of the BCS or power conferences should have a vote in this process. I believe that one elite media member from every sector of the country to balance things off should have a vote in this as well. That way you take out any human element, any prejudicial element that would cancel out another, say somebody from the South, say somebody from the West Coast. Can you say Archie Manning, Condoleezza Rice? Not that they wouldn't be above and beyond, they would be. I do believe they're principled people. But I think the people that I spoke of would have the best voice in this and to be able to determine who and what should play in this game. There is no perfect system. We've tried a number of different things. Ultimately, the solution is to have an 8-team playoff. And if you have that, it shouldn't be that difficult to arrive at 8. The debate is always going to be about 2 or about 4. But to get to 8, I don't think it's that difficult to come up with 8 teams that clearly deserve to be playing or competing for a national championship. And I think if you disperse the votes to different segments of the country with people that do pay attention on a regular basis, that, my friends, is the way to go. We'll take a time out here. When we return in just a moment, we'll take a look at LSU and Tulane victories, plus high school football and the best player in the nation as Sports NOLA TV continues from Premier Nissan on Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV, Premier Nissan. The LSU Tigers, ranked 10th in the nation, trying to bounce back from a difficult loss at Athens against Georgia. Had to take on another bunch of Bulldogs, this time in Starkville against Mississippi State. And early on, the Tigers struggled defensively again. This was like taking candy from a baby. You cover man-to-man, quarterback takes off, easy touchdown for Prescott. But then Jeremy Hill, what a talented, tough, good-looking young runner he is. This LSU offense continues to be lights out, Brian, in every capacity.
Well, I'll tell you what, we said it before with Cam Cameron, but they've got 4 or 5 offensive players right now that look like they could just jump to the NFL. They're playing with so much confidence, and Cameron's putting them in positions to excel. And is there a quarterback that's having a better year than Zach Mettenberger?
Good question, Torrance. Obviously, this is a football team that is scoring like no LSU team has scored in a long, long time, if ever.
Oh, yes. The talent they have, you know, the running backs, quarterbacks, receivers, they're loaded. You just have to turn that around on the defensive end right now. I think losing the SEC lost 35 players, I think, on the defensive end. 63 total went to the NFL last year. And you're really seeing it throughout the SEC with the defense.
Yeah, Mettenberger, player of the week in the league, and Odell Beckham Jr., look at this, 179 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns, 9 catches. He leads the nation in all-purpose yardage. And the Tigers get Florida next, Rick. You know a little bit about Florida?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man, they're going to be a good ball game. They got Brian Young down there. He played with me in San Francisco. He coaching the defensive line down there. So Florida coming and ready. But what I like about LSU is these guys can catch a 1-yard pass and turn it into a 7 to 80-yard pass. All of them got great speed.
Does any team in the nation have a better 1-2 punch at wide receiver than LSU with Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham?
Oh, they got the best receivers in football, I think, especially 1-2 punt. But, you know, every week, quarterback get the ball to them, those guys make plays.
Kenny, I tell you what, though, I agree with you totally about the receivers, but Mettenberger is putting those balls in a position where they can get those YACs. You know, I mean, he really is.
He's making great decisions, precise decisions. He's not hesitating. He's not holding it back. I mean, he's letting it rip, and those guys are making plays.
LSU's goals, their season is still there. Everything's right in front of them to make a run. Georgia lost 2 key players to injuries for the year this past weekend. Really hurts them. And LSU needs to take care of business at home against Florida. A really good defensive team, kind of an ordinary offensive team. LSU has revenge on its minds. I think they're in pretty good shape. We'll see how that works out. The Tigers, not the only victorious team that we talk about. I'm wearing green today, right? Tulane Green Wave, 4-2 is the sportsNOLA logo. Look at the Green Wave coming out wearing all white at home. I was in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome to watch, and this was a good football game. The Tulane defense was outstanding from the start, and here's a big pick early on in the game. Lorenzo Doss, 9 interceptions in 2 years. He's really been good. Brian, this is a good young local player from St. Augustine High School. Montana with a touchdown pass to Shackelford. They were opportunistic, did what they could, and then they win the game on special teams. Can you believe it? Their kicking game, which has been abysmal, turns up big here. Monroe blocks it, and then the return for the touchdown. This is a team win for Tulane.
And I'll tell you what, the way they did it is impressive. Return a touchdown, return a pick for an interception by Lorenzo Doss, I believe, correct? And then the return of the blocked field goal. Those are the kind of games that Tulane hasn't won in the past, hasn't even made those plays come to fruition. And here they are 4-2. Dare we say bowl game?
Absolutely. Offense didn't do anything in the second half until it mattered. Last drive of the game, they drove the field and scored.
Hey, that's what it takes. Hey, take a page out of the Saints against Tampa. Hadn't did much, but the last drive, they did what they had to do to get the win. That's the same thing Tulane did.
It's the kind of game that Tulane's always lost, Ricky. It's great to see them winning a game like this.
Well, Coach got them fighting over there, you know what I mean? And I can't wait till they get to their new stadium where they can have a crowd pulling for them. You know, yesterday, people didn't turn out as well as, you know, Tulane wanted them to. So they're going to get their new stadium. They're going to get a lot of better players, and I think they're going to be on the record with.
Well, they're 2-0 in the Conference USA West, and they've got East Carolina, probably the best team in the conference, coming in this weekend. Who would have thought, Brian, that this was a game that sets up a possible division champion or a possible champion of the league?
Absolutely. You know, after East Carolina, they've got 4 very winnable games, and then they close against Rice, Kenny. So dare we say bowl game? I mean, this club, if they stay healthy, they don't have depth. So they have to stay healthy at key positions.
They're going to have to play better offensively, Torrance. Their defense has held consecutive opponents under 50 yards rushing. That is some impressive defensively. Their offense needs to be more productive than this.
Yes, they're going to have to be more productive. But one thing we always say, if they don't score, they can't win. That's the thing. Defense is keeping them out of the end zone, keeping them from kicking field goals, keeping points off the board. It gives you opportunity.
Kind of like the Saints, Ricky. Their defense has stepped up. They're much better, and that's why they're winning.
Yeah, I mean, all those guys young too, man. So, you know, they got a whole nother year to go, and they're going to get a lot better.
Turn our attention to high school football now, and it's time to take a look at our sportsNOLA.com Greater New Orleans Quarterback Club WGSO 990 AM Prep Player of the Week for week number 5. The nation's best player, Leonard Fournette, running back of St. Augustine High School, 36 carries, 263 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches, 38 yards and a touchdown, 44 yards of kickoff returns, 345 all-purpose yards, and he did it against John Curtis in a thrilling come-from-behind 29-28 victory. Had the best 2-point conversion run you will ever see. Brian, special player, and a special opportunity for the national audience to see him and to see great football in New Orleans.
Leonard Fournette is so ready for college football. When he bowled over the defender at the goal line, Kenny, the touchdown that brought him to within 1 at the end of the game, I mean, that was an SEC play if there wasn't one. This kid is something
He's all
special.
that, isn't he, Torrance?
Oh, yes. Not only just on the field. I had the opportunity to see the young man yesterday at Country Day. He passed the eye test. This is a big guy. This is a big guy. Look like an Adrian Peterson type guy. He is ready.
Yeah, he might be better as some pro backs right now.
Well,
Ricky.
I mean, Ken, I started looking at him from you when you had him as a freshman. I mean, coming to your events, and he was there for the award for Player of the Week. But I tell you what, Brian say that he ready for the SEC. This guy ready for the NFL.
I think he's right. I honestly believe that's true. I really do. And we're gonna see some more. We're gonna see some more really good high school football players, because the oldest rivalry in Louisiana football history resumes this Friday night, and it's part of our first NBC Bank Prep Showcase as the Holy Cross Tigers and the Jesuit Blue Jays reconvene Friday night live at 7 p.m. here on WHNO Channel 20 and also at sportsNOLA.com. What a rivalry this is, Brian. You started covering high school football here in the late 70s in New Orleans, and you understand what this is all about.
Kenny, this game is just one of those things. Yeah, I was there. You know what? I'm a young man.
That's when I first met Brian. I met Brian at Tulane Stadium covering a high school game when I'm sitting in the stands doing a broadcast, and he comes and introduces himself to me. I'm from Indiana. Tell me what's going on here. Nice to meet you.
I had no idea how good football was down here until you stick around. But you know, the St. Aug, Carver, John Curtis, Holy Cross Jesuit. I mean, this is a hotbed for great high school football.
It really is. And this is a hotbed for vehicles. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Stay tuned for that. Brian, it's always a pleasure. Torrance, thank you, my friend.
Oh, man,
Ricky, God bless you, my friend. Always good. When we return, we'll tell you all about some great deals at Premier Nissan as we continue as part of the Premier Automotive Group from Premier Nissan in Metairie on Veterans Boulevard on WHNO Channel 20. We're here at Premier Nissan of Metairie, one of the Premier Automotive Group's many locations, 6636 Veterans Memorial Boulevard. Great cars, great deals here at Premier Nissan. And you want to get in on some of these deals, which we're going to talk about momentarily, because it doesn't get any better than Premier Nissan. And we're happy to be here today. And of course, we're always happy to pay homage to TGI Fridays, promotional consideration provided by TGI Fridays at 3330 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. Of course, they're located on Manhattan as well. And here it's always Friday at TGI Fridays. And our sports block moving up an hour this week, starting at 5. Prep Recruiting Insider Renee Nadeau, Ro Brown taking care of business with the latest on recruiting. Wednesday at 5 p.m. And on Thursday at 5 p.m., the John Forcade Show with our friend Mike DeTillier, and that's at 5 p.m. as well this week. Early start time with our telethons this week, so tune in early and enjoy all of our fine sports programming on WHNO. Ken Trahan, joined now by the General Sales Manager of Premier Nissan, Jerry Billiard. Jerry, it's good to have you with us, man.
Hey, pleased to meet you.
Well, first and foremost, great product. I mean, I've driven Maximas, Muranos, Sentras. I mean, we've owned all of these different vehicles, and you can't go wrong. So many good products here at Premier Nissan.
Absolutely. At this time, I'd like to invite everyone to come by to with the prices and the discount that we have. I mean, that heck, as strong as New Orleans, the Saints.
2014 fleet. You got it? You're ready to roll?
Absolutely. We have 14s going for 13 pricing. In fact, we have 2013 Sentras, 14.9. 2013 Altimas, 2.5S, 17,990, and Rogue SL models up to $7,000 off.
Well, you got the Pathfinder, the Cargo SV van, for people that want those bigger vehicles.
Absolutely. We have great deals on all our vehicles here. Pathfinders have over $2,000. We have $2,000 rebate and up to $4,000 or $5,000 off.
Location obviously is a plus for you. It's right in the middle of everything, heavily trafficked area. There's disposable income around. It's a good place to be.
Absolutely. We want to invite everyone here this Thursday. We have our first 10 buyers free 42-inch televisions we're giving with the purchase.
All right, starting at what time?
That'd be starting at 9 a.m.
9 a.m. They'll be lined up at 8:30 after watching this. I'll tell you, maybe I'll be in line too. Stay tuned for that. And of course, Premier Automotive, just a wonderful company to be part of with so many dealerships in Louisiana, California, and beyond.
A great place to be, to have a truly exceptional experience.
Outstanding people. We want to encourage everyone to support Premier, Troy Duhan, and Jerry Billiot, who does a great job. I promise you, Jerry told me to say this, you come in, he's going to give you a good deal, right?
Absolutely. On the spot.
Honest man, on the spot. Not going to let you get away, let you drive away. Come by and just test drive a vehicle, and that's what you encourage people. If you have a good product, you want them to sample it. You just want them to sample it. You feel like it will sell itself, right?
Absolutely. One hand on the wheel, that's it. You have a deal.
And you have so many good options to offer here. I mean, as many as 10, 12 different combinations of vehicles at Premier Nissan. Again, location right here on Veterans, 6636 Veterans Boulevard, right past the Veterans exit. And you can call 455-5800 for more information. That's 455-5800. Call anytime. Come on by and give everybody your hours one more time. Right?
We're at 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. Monday through Saturday, actually. We're open until 9 on Saturdays as well.
Take Sundays off, go watch the Saints game, right?
As late as whatever it takes. We're here.
It's all good. Jerry, a pleasure. Thanks for having us here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We appreciate you, and we appreciate you for watching as well here on sportsNOLAtv. And until next week, for our entire panel, for Brian, Ricky, Torrance, and for Jerry. Now, this is Ken Trahan saying thanks for joining us, and be a good sport. God bless you one and all. We are rounding third and heading home. So long.